Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we'll take a look at the next step in the recording chain and how to bounce tracks on the Boss BR1600. The Boss BR1600 has 8 mono and 4 stereo sets of tracks available for recording. And once you start recording, you'll find it won't take long before you run out of physical tracks to record to. The solution to this problem is bouncing. This takes a track or a group of recorded tracks and mixes them down along with any effects to either a mono or stereo track, freeing up the original tracks to be reused for more recording. The technique originated in the days of tape-based multitracks and was a way to get more instruments onto tape with a very limited track count. On a 4-track tape machine, you would record 3 takes to the first 3 tracks and then bounce them down to track 4. You'd then record over track 1 and 2 and bounce them to track 3. That leaves track 1 and 2 free to record over, 2 takes on track 3 and 3 takes on track 4. Total of 7 takes over the 4 tracks. To push the track count even further, you could record a live take at the same time as doing the bounce. So the first bounce would include track 1, 2 and 3 plus a live take. Track 2 and 3 plus a live take would get bounced to track 3, and track 1 plus a live take would get bounced to track 2. You then left with track 1 free, giving you a total of 10 takes across the 4 tracks. Of course, you could go even further by bouncing the already bounced tracks together, but second generation bouncers would start to introduce too much tape noise, and you were generally limited to just single generation bouncers. The main downside was that once you'd bounced the tracks, the original takes were recorded over and lost, and there was no way to go back and change a bounce once it was done. The BR1600 uses the same approach, but with none of the disadvantages. Being digital, it doesn't suffer from any generational noise buildup, and with the use of V-Tracks, you're able to keep all of the original takes and redo any of the bounces at any time. There are a few reasons why you might want to bounce a track or tracks, and these include reducing the number of physical tracks that you've used so that you can free up space for more recording, applying an insert effect permanently to a track so that it can be used on another track, or to create a stereo mix of your finished song for either mastering or exporting. As an example, here is a set of drum tracks from a song that I've previously mixed. These were imported to 10 tracks of a project, in this case all using V-Track 16. These are the raw untouched tracks. Before bouncing, all the tracks to be included should be adjusted for relative volume, panning, EQ, compression, and effects. Once they've been mixed down, they will no longer have the ability to be able to be edited individually. Any tracks that are not going to be included in the bounce should have their faders turned all the way down or be muted. Here are the drum tracks with the volumes balanced and EQ, compression, effects and panning applied. To perform a bounce, you need to put the BR1600 into bounce mode. Once in bounce mode, all of the input sources are automatically turned off and the inputs are muted. However, if you wanted to add a live take along with the bounce, pressing any of the input source buttons will reactivate them. You can then set up the recording and input levels as you normally would in input mode. Press play and listen to the mix. You should gain stage the volume when bouncing and adjust the overall level to around -4 dB. Everything that you can hear through the main output and headphones will be recorded in the bounce. This includes the built-in loops, bass and drums if you're using them. The only exception is the metronome and any audio that you have set up as a submix, which we covered in the previous video. The BR1600 will default to track 9 and 10 as the bounce location, but you can use any of the V tracks that are available. You only need to bounce to track 9 and 10 if you want to use the mastering toolkit, as it's only available on these two tracks. Just bear in mind that you can't bounce to a V track on the same physical track as one that's included in the bounce. In other words, you can't play from and record to a track at the same time. For this reason, you need to make sure that you leave a free track or tracks available to be able to do the bounce. Arm a mono or stereo track as the bounce destination and these tracks will then flash red. For this example, I've used 12 of the 16 tracks available, so there are only two choices, track 9-10 or 15-16. I'll go with 15-16 as I like to keep the same instruments on the same tracks across all projects, and I usually have the drums on 15-16. It also doesn't matter whether you're using the built-in loops, bass or drums or not, you can still use any of their V tracks to bounce or record to. Press 0 to go to the start of the song, record to go into standby, and play to start the bounce. The bounce is done in real time and all the faders and controls are live. So adjusting a fader, pan position, effect, or the master fader while bouncing will record it to the track. Once it's finished playing through, press stop. The original 12 tracks have now been condensed down to just 2. Press 0 to rewind to the start of the song and either lower the faders on the original tracks or switch them over to the next set of empty V tracks. Raise the fader on the bounce destination track and listen to the result. If you want to redo the bounce, it's a good idea to use the undo button first. When you record over any existing audio, it's not actually deleted, but gets stored along with the song. And if you're doing multiple rebounces, it can quickly increase the physical size of the song on the hard drive. Once a track has been bounced, it can also be moved to any new location using the track move function. You do this from the utility, track and move. Select the source track or tracks and the destination. The entire track length is selected by default and press go. This is handy if you want the final bounce to end up on a track that also includes one of the source audio tracks. If the BR1600 was to be shut down or lost power at this point, then the bounce track would be lost. If you're happy with the result, press stop and record while in stop mode and then follow the prompts to save the song. With the bounce done, you can now switch the original tracks over to the next set of empty V tracks. The track lights go off, indicating no audio is present, and you can continue recording more material. Any song that has more than 14 tracks will need to use bounce mode to add more. I'll briefly touch on how I use bounce mode in combination with the V-Tracks to record and mix songs that have larger track counts. V-Tracks were designed to be used to keep alternative takes of the same instrument and to help in compiling a final track from multiple takes. Now, although you can use them to do that, I also tend to use them in a more unconventional way. Rather than keeping the same instrument to one physical track and using up the V-Tracks, I use one V-Track set and span them across all the physical tracks, essentially treating each set as an audio bus. I usually set up a project so that it has the drums on V-Track 16, bass on 15, acoustic guitar on 14, electric on 13, keys on 12, background vocals on 11, and the main vocals on 10. This still also leaves track 2 to 9 free for any other instruments that I might want to add. I use up to 14 of the V-Tracks per bus, leaving just track 9 and 10 free for bouncing, and then save each bus using the scenes function. Scenes were designed for storing and recalling different mixer settings and for automation using snapshots, but it's extremely powerful when used like this. It saves all of the fader positions, effects, and settings for every V-Track and can be instantly recalled at any time. After mixing each bus, they're then bounced down to a final destination on track 1. Theoretically, you could record and mix a song with more than 150 tracks without having to delete any of the original recordings and still have the ability to edit every single track individually with instant recall of all its settings using scenes. I'll cover the scenes function in much more detail in a future video, but for now that's a brief overview of how you bounce tracks on the Boss BR1600. I hope you found it helpful. If you have a question, please feel free to leave it in the comments. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.